Hello and welcome back once again to the Wrestling Rant. I feel like I'm going to have to repeat myself because I just got done watching one of the shittiest episodes of Raw of the entire damn year. And the shit to it is that the show started off good. We had 3 good matches in a row. And after that, all goodness was flushed down the toilet, never to return. I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible because I really don't even want to keep thinking about how bad this show was. So let's get through it as quick as possible. Raw Monday night, December 30th, 2013, from Richmond, Virginia. Yes, for once the show was live. For once. Finally, after 2 weeks. Well, 1 week, but whatever. Show starts with CM Punk comes out. He talks a bit. He's talking about how 2013 didn't go so well for him. He's had his ups and downs. And then he starts to talk about the Shield, saying that, you know what, those guys had a great year. And he's saying how he had a proposition for them. And so the Shield music hits and they come out through the crowd, of course. They get in the ring and they basically kind of corner Punk. But Ambrose has a mic, and he says, "Go ahead and finish what you were saying, Punk. Finish your thought." And what Ambrose says is, he knows that the Shield can beat anybody 3-on-1. But Punk wants to fight the best person of the Shield, the one best guy. He wants to go 1-on-1. And upon saying this, Ambrose says, "Oh, you want to go again, me and you?" And Punk's like, "No, I wasn't talking about you." And Ambrose gets all mad. Rollins and Reigns are trying to hold him back. And Punk is saying that, I actually hear people talking a lot more about Roman Reigns. But Rollins, for some reason, steps up and says, "I'll fight you. I'm the best," or whatever the fuck. And so all 3 of them are squabbling amongst themselves, the Shield guys. And again, it's just more tension between the Shield. And then all of a sudden we're interrupted by the forgotten general manager of Raw, Brad Maddox, who comes out on the stage. And he says, "You know what? We're going to start the show off with a bang. Punk, you damn sure will take on Seth Rollins right now. That match is going to be next. Get me a referee out here. We're going to have the match." And so, sure enough, we have the match. Punk and Rollins. And as I said, the match was good. Punk goes for the go to sleep early, but Rollins gets out of it. They cut to a commercial. After the commercial break, Punk hits the "Welcome to Chicago" motherfucker, which, for those of you who don't know, is the butterfly backbreaker. Right, there was a somewhat blown spot in the corner. What happened was, I think Punk went to throw Rollins into the corner, but Punk reversed it. Or no. Punk went to throw Rollins into the corner. Rollins reversed it, threw Punk into the corner. Punk grabs the corner and jumps up like he's going to go for the jump twisting into a roll-up sunset flip sort of thing, but Rollins was nowhere to be found, so Punk just comes back down, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And then Rollins finally comes up, so Punk has to jump up again to go for it. Yeah. There was another somewhat blown spot where Punk went to go for like a running dive into like a small package, but it was just really ugly. Either way. Punk ends up getting thrown. Oh, right. Punk was up top. He had jumped up top to go for like a springboard or something, but Rollins pushed him out of the ring and Punk fell all the way to the barricade. They cut to another commercial. And when they come back, let's see. Rollins was in the corner. Punk went to charge him to give him the big running high knee in the corner, but Rollins catches him and gets him up into the powerbomb position, runs all the way across the ring, and powerbombs Punk into the other corner. So we get the turnbuckle bomb. More stuff. Rollins goes up to the top rope to go for something, but he gets caught, and Punk nuts him on the top rope. And he goes for a superplex, but Rollins blocks it, throws him off. Rollins comes diving off with a crossbody, but Punk catches him and rolls through, and he goes into the Anaconda Vice. But it's broken somehow. I think what happened is, since since Ambrose and Reigns were at ringside, they're yelling at Punk during the match. They're yelling at the referee, distracting and all the shit, whatever. But anyways, the Vice gets broken up, and Rollins gets up, and he cinches Punk up to go for a... He looked like he was trying to go for the crossroads, but Punk countered it and around, and then Rollins finally goes... He does the standing sliced bread, or the... what's it called? Shiranui. He hits that, and apparently that's his finisher. And oh yeah, there was another spot that I forgot to write down. Rollins had Punk doubled over, and then he hit the ropes and went for the blackout, the curb stomp, but Punk got out of the way. Oh, and this was actually a good spot. After he went for the blackout and missed, Punk went to go for the big roundhouse kick, but Rollins ducked that and did his big jumping Pele Enziguri sort of thing, and he nails Punk and wipes him out. But anyways, yada yada. Rollins hits the sliced bread. And the ref was being distracted by Ambrose and Reigns, so he wasn't able to get the 3 count after the sliced bread. The ref finally came back and he counts and he only gets 2. After that, I think Rollins got thrown over the top rope and dumped on top of Ambrose and Reigns, which wiped them all out. And then Punk went for the suicide dive, but Rollins blocks it with like a forearm shot. Again, we've seen this spot a lot lately. And what happened was, Rollins jumps up onto the apron after the forearm shot. Punk was recoiling. He comes back. Rollins goes for a springboard. Punk ducks and grabs him and catches him into the go-to-sleep. He nails it. Rollins goes down in a crumbled heap, and Punk covers him for the 1-2-3. So Punk wins. Good freaking match, despite a couple of blown spots early. But it was still a damn good match. We cut backstage to the frickin' office, where we see Kane's mask and wig in this clear plastic box. I don't know why. Kane wasn't there at all tonight. As a matter of fact, neither was Randy Orton or John Cena. And I probably should have started off with this, but apparently, on the very night of the last WWE show of this year, they were also holding a house show in Canada. And that's where Orton and Cena both were, and apparently Kane was there as well. So, why would you have a house show on the same night as your live Raw? And even if you were going to have a house show, why would you send your 2 big names, Orton and Cena, there? Along with half of the roster. But anyways, we're in the office. We see Kane's mask. There's Brad Maddox talking to a referee. And then up come Triple H and Stephanie. And, whatever the fuck. Up comes Daniel Bryan, and he wants a match, one-on-one, with Bray Wyatt. And I think it was Maddox who says, you know what, you need to earn your match against Bray Wyatt. Like he hasn't fucking earned it already after taking beating after beating at the hand of the Wyatt family. Which, by the way, that's the big story of the show. This whole thing between Bryan and the Wyatts. They build up to it, But anyways, here's this segment. Maddox says you need to earn it. You're going to be in a gauntlet match. You have to fight Harper first. And then if you win, you get to fight Rowan. And then if you beat him too, then and only then do you get Bray one-on-one. So Bryan's in another gauntlet match at the end of Raw. End of that segment, they cut to commercial. When they cut back, Stephanie comes out on the stage. And she says, you know, after all the great stuff that has happened during 2013, people ask me if there's anything you would change about it if I could go back in time. And she says, no, I wouldn't change a thing. No, because 2013 has been so good. Yeah. So good it makes me want to rip my own eyes out. Especially considering the end of the show, which we'll get to. Can you tell how mad I am right now, by the way? This show was awful after the first 3 matches. Anyways, she says there wasn't anything she would change about 2013, and she segues into this career highlight video for Randy Orton. Shows, you know, him debuting and winning title after title after title. And finally the video ends, and Stephanie announces that Randy is going to defend the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view against John Cena, and it is going to be a quote-unquote traditional championship match. As in, it's not a TLC match, and it's going to be one-on-one, no interference, no disqualification, no count-out. The only way to win is by pin or submission. So essentially, it's a street fight with no interference. And that's going to happen at the Royal Rumble. Not like we didn't already know that. Cena was going to get a rematch eventually, so whatever. Stephanie pisses off in that segment's end. We get the first recap of many of the feud between Bryan and the Wyatts. I believe it was from like 3 months ago. Yeah, this is how long this shit has been going. 3 fucking months. And yeah, that was the start of it. I think the first thing they showed was the Wyatts attacking Bryan backstage. He was doing that interview segment with Renee. They attacked him. They beat the shit out of him. Bray, Sister Abigail'd him up against the chain link fence thing and then shoved the stupid... what was it? The big rolling case. The big box thing. Rammed that into Bryan's face up against the chain link fence thing. Whatever. But yeah. So they show that recap, and they hype up the gauntlet for later on. And then they also say that up later on as well, we're going to have the Intercontinental title match that we were promised. Big E Langston defending against the #1 contender, Fandango. That's going to be a little bit later, and we cut to commercial. And I think it was during the commercial break is they showed the stupid Batista return video package. When we come back from commercial, Stephanie is walking through one of the backstage hallways, and she comes across Triple H, and they talk together, and she's like, wasn't that great, yada yada, and Triple H is like, well, if you thought that was good, you should see my announcement for later. And Triple H walks off, and whatever the fuck. We cut back to the ring, where Curtis Axel is already standing there. And they do a picture-in-a-picture promo, where Axel had a promo that they recorded, whatever, and it's him talking. Who cares? He can't cut a promo to save his life. He's boring as fuck. And so, yeah, this is leading to what they had announced, well, not announced, but what they were talking about was him versus Ziggler. Ziggler's music hits, and he starts coming out, and while he's coming out, they do the same sort of thing, where it's a picture-in-a-picture thing, of Ziggler cutting a promo, and him saying that, you know, my year hasn't been so great, but I'm going to end on a high note by beating Curtis Axel tonight, whatever the fuck. So the match starts, Axel and Ziggler. And despite Axel's lame ass being in the match was still decent. Ziggler hits his drop kick, and then gets dumped out of the ring. He takes another nasty spill to the outside. I don't know if he just likes taking these nasty spills, or if... I don't know. There was an interesting spot where Axel went to whip Dolph into the turnbuckle, but Dolph reverses it, and Axel... I don't know if he slipped on the ring apron or the ring mat, but his legs shot out from under him, and he went face first into the middle turnbuckle, and his feet went under the bottom rope. So I don't know what the fuck that was all about, but whatever. Yada yada. They wrestled around They wrestled around a bit. And Axel was on the ropes, so of course Ziggler had to stupidly go for the zigzag, which of course Axel just kind of threw him off. I didn't take a whole lot of notes, but after that, Axel basically beat Ziggler down, had him flat on his back, and was just kind of standing over top of him, just kind of taunting the crowd, doing his stupid little supposedly maniacal laugh, which, sorry Axel, you're not intimidating at all. You're a scruffy-looking son of a bitch with hardly any charisma, and you're not that good of a wrestler. But anyways, he's standing there laughing at the crowd, taunting them. He looks down, Ziggler's gone, and you see the camera jumps up. There's Ziggler, jumps up, grabs Axel from behind, and hits the zigzag. Dolph covers him and gets the win. So Ziggler finally wins. Thank God, it's about fucking time. After that, the commentators start talking and saying, we're going to do another retarded-ass app vote. This time it's going to be for Damien Sandow's opponent here tonight. And the choices are The Miz, Kofi Kingston, and the Great Khali. And of course, before they started talking about that, Cole had to show everybody how to install the WWE app. Like we're all friggin' idiots and we need to be told every week how to install an app. You install it just like you install any other fucking app, you idiots. You don't need to keep telling us. Anyways, we cut to a split screen. We see on one side Big E coming through one of the backstage hallways, and in the other screen, Johnny and Summer coming through one of the other backstage hallways. Of course, they're coming out for their title match. And they also show a recap of last week, Johnny winning the present on a pole match, beating Ziggler. Or no. Yeah. No, okay, I've completely skipped ahead here. Ugh. They showed the split screen of them coming out, and then they cut to a commercial. the split screen of them coming through the hallway. They cut to a commercial. And I think it was during this commercial that they said that, it was during this commercial they hyped up next week on Raw, the first Raw of 2014. We're going to do another old school edition of Raw. So we're going to have a bunch of legends come back that we don't need to see. Whatever. After the commercial, Big E comes out first for some reason, and then Fandango comes out with Summer Rae, of course. And this is where they have the recap of last week, Johnny winning the pole match with Ziggler, whatever. And then Justin Roberts gives the big match introductions. Like this is supposed to be a big match. It is for the Intercontinental title, which is still one of the more prestigious titles that they have, despite it being shit on over the last couple of years. But anyways, they do the big match intros, and they start the match. And again, this match was good, because they put on a damn good match, actually. Towards the beginning of the match, after Big E had beaten the hell out of Johnny for a few minutes, Johnny was on his back, and Big E came walking over towards him. Johnny kicks Big E in the knee, and Big E starts falling face first. He goes face first into Johnny's knee. So Big E gets a face full of Johnny's knee. Johnny locks in he starts working Big E's legs, of course. He gets him grounded, and that's what you should do with a big guy. He locks in, I think it was the Indian Deathlock. Actually, no, now that I think about it, it wasn't. It was kind of like a figure four, but instead of locking it the normal way, he had it off to the side, and he had his one foot pressing against the knee of Big E. So no, I don't think that was the Indian Deathlock. But he did this same move twice during the match. They get out of it. Big E falls out of the ring. They cut to commercial. They were fighting around. Big E was starting to come back. Johnny wound up on the apron. And Big E grabs him, belly-to-belly suplexes him off the apron into the ring. Johnny was able to make a comeback. He hit a tornado DDT on Big E. And then Big E was down. Johnny goes up to the top rope, and he comes diving off with the big leg drop. You'd think that would be the end of the match, but no. After he hit the leg drop, Big E rolls out of the ring. And so he can't cover him. So Johnny gets out onto the apron, and he jumps down at Big E and drop kicks him as Big E's getting back up. So he drop kicks him from the apron. They get back in the ring, and Big E starts coming back. He clotheslines him a couple of times, floors him on his back, and even though he's limping after the submission move or whatever it was, he runs across the ring, he hits the ropes, he runs across, hits the other ropes, does his big splash that he's been doing. Then he gets Johnny up and he hits the big ending, and he pins him. So Big E wins and retains the title. It really was a good match. Good action, went back and forth. The crowd was into it. Anyways, after the match, we get another recap of Bryan versus the Wyatts, and this one shows the abduction when they abducted Bryan. I can't remember how long ago it was, but again, they hype up the gauntlet match. And then they announce that next week on Raw, CM Punk is going to take on Roman Reigns of The Shield. And so we're finally going to see if Punk can beat each individual member of The Shield. Since he's already beaten Ambrose a couple of times, he beat Rollins earlier, and now we're going to see if he can beat Reigns. But considering Punk beat all three of them together in the handicap match at the pay-per-view, I don't know what the point of this is. They're just making the Shield look bad. But anyways, after that, Booker T's music hits, and I'm like, why the fuck is he coming out? He comes out with a bunch of the undercard superstars and a couple of the divas, the primetime players, Oksana, and I think Rosa Mendez and Caitlyn, and just a bunch of people came out. And Booker T's talking, it's the New Year's, we're celebrating, and he's holding a cup of wine, or like a chalice of wine. And he says, we gonna set the new year off with a bang, I'm gonna do a spin-a-rooney. And he starts, getting ready to do a spin-a-rooney, and then all of a sudden, Wade Barrett's music starts playing. And I'm like, oh god, they're gonna do another Bad News Barrett thing. And I'm looking, are they gonna cut over to the back by the commentary table? No. Barrett starts rising on this platform off to the side of the stage. And it has his podium on it, and he's there. And the thing is so big, it has this big sign on it that of course says hashtag Bad News Barrett. And now he's got a gavel, and he's banging it on the fucking podium, trying to get the people to shut up. And he starts talking like, you people are so oblivious, you're gonna keep following trends and all this other shit, and meanwhile, the world still sucks, you're not doing anything about government corruption, and all these other things. And even though he's making good points, I still cannot stand Wade Barrett's boring ass talking. I wanted to change the fucking channel. And I was about to, but then he finally shut up. And I was like, okay, he's done. I might as well stay on the channel. This gimmick, this Bad News Barrett gimmick, sucks. He doesn't have the charisma to cut good promos. You can have him make all the good points you want. It doesn't matter. He still sucks. And he's talking way more than he should be, and he hasn't wrestled a freaking match in weeks, months, however long it's been. Anyways, that segment finally ends, and we cut backstage to Renee Young, who's getting ready to interview Damian Sandow. Sandow basically just says, shut up, witch, I'm talking here. And he says, you know what, I don't care who the WWE Universe has voted to be my opponent tonight. If I don't beat my opponent tonight, I will quit the WWE. He's going to quit if he loses the match. If he doesn't end 2013 on a high note, he's going to quit. And so immediately, I knew that he wasn't going to lose. His career in the WWE has been very short. He hasn't been around for very long. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Not that I want him to. I actually like Sandow. He's a good wrestler. And I like his gimmick. It works for him. But yeah. So that segment's over. They cut to a commercial. When we come back, Sandow comes out, and he gets in the ring. And then they cut over to Lawler at the commentator table, who, of course, as always, announces the app results. And the winner is the great Khali. And so Khali comes out and gets in the ring. And we have the match. And obviously, this is past the third match, so this is where the show tanks. Obviously, you've got the great Khali. You cannot have a good match with him. The match sucked. The only highlights I had was Sandow was down in the corner. Khali came in, and I think, again, Sandow kicked Khali in the knee, and Khali fell face first and eats the turnbuckle. And then Damien scrambles, rolls Khali up, gets the 1-2-3. And then the announcers had to make a big fuss over the fact that one of Khali's shoulders came up during the count. I don't really give a shit, because Khali shouldn't have been able to beat Sandow anyways. This comes up later, but oh well. Sandow wins the match and he's staying in the WWE. We get another recap of Bryan versus the Wyatts. This one is from SmackDown 3 weeks ago. I guess it was just another random beating. Who gives a fuck? And again, they hype up the gauntlet match. After that, we see R-Truth and Xavier Woods and the Funkadactyls backstage coming through one of the hallways, coming out for a match. And the commentators say it's going to be a rematch of Truth versus Brodus that we got at the pay-per-view, I believe. And they cut to another commercial. When we get back, R-Truth and Brodus are already both in the ring. And Xavier Woods is on commentary. The match starts, Truth and Brodus, and it's shit, because it's Brodus dominating basically the entire match, beating the hell out of R-Truth, until finally Xavier, over on commentary, he's like, I can't take this anymore. He throws off his headset, stands up on the table, and starts yelling, hey Brodus, over here. You know, I think he had a microphone. He's like trying to distract him. And then all of a sudden, Brodus, the stupid funk music, whatever, starts playing, and out come the Funkadactyls onto the stage. They're dancing, shaking their ghetto asses. And I think Brodus was up on the second turnbuckle, getting ready to do something. I don't know what the fuck. Truth hit something on Brodus in the corner, and it knocked Brodus off the top rope into the middle of the ring, and Truth was able to cover him and got the win. So basically, we had a rematch from the pay-per-view, and they basically completely redid the finish from that match, of Brodus getting distracted after dominating the match, and Brodus losing. So, if you're not going to do anything different, why did you do the match again? Just to make Brodus look like shit? I mean, don't get me wrong, he sucks, and he deserves to look like shit, but why? Why redo the same thing you did at the pay-per-view? Anyways, Brodus gets out of the ring and he's pissed, and he goes up to the stage, and the Funkadactyls are now in the ring with Truth and Woods, and they're all dancing. And Truth had been holding his arm. I don't know what happened. Probably Brodus' sloppy wrestling probably hurt him. But Truth looked like he was hurt. But anyways, they're dancing. Whatever in the fuck. The commentators use this opportunity to say that the Funkadactyls aren't done yet for the night. Oh, goody. And the reason for that is we have a 10-diva tag team match that's going to happen later on tonight. And once again, it's the Total Divas versus the quote-unquote True Divas. And yet Natalya and AJ and Tamina were nowhere to be found for this match. But it was a 5-on-5, but whatever, we'll get to that later. They cut backstage to Triple H coming through one of the fucking hallways, of course, and they cut to another commercial. Of course, he was getting ready to come out to make his big announcement. We come back from commercial, and Triple H comes out, and he gets in the ring, and he talks. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to help me in welcoming back to Monday Night Raw this man. And I'm thinking, well, they're not going to blow the Batista thing already. He's scheduled for January 20th. After a frickin' long pause, Brock Lesnar's music hits. And he comes out. with Paul Heyman. And he gets some pyro up on the stage. It basically looked like the Rob Van Dam pyro. But anyways, Heyman and Brock get in the ring. Heyman shakes hands with Triple H, and then Triple H goes over to Brock, and they actually shake hands despite the fact that we know they hate each other. But anyways, after the handshakes, Triple H leaves and pisses off. Heyman has the mic and he starts talking. And he basically says that Brock did not come back to face old opponents to settle old scores. Brock has come back because he wants to be the next WWE World Heavyweight Champion. So basically this is them putting Cena and Orton on notice. Whoever wins their match at the Rumble is going to have to face Brock after that. And then Heyman actually gives the mic to Brock and he starts talking. And immediately he starts fucking up his lines because he's never been very good at talking. He basically says that I'm the number one contender. Self-proclaimed, even. And he says that the line forms behind me. And I'm like, you sack of shit. You don't just come back and declare yourself the number one contender. You have to fucking earn it. If they give him a title match without him earning it, I'm gonna be really mad, because The Rock did that shit a few months ago, and that's when The Rock ended Punk's title reign, and it pissed me off then. I don't care who you are, I don't care how much of a beast you think you are, you have to fucking earn title matches, asshole. Not to mention the fact that you didn't need to come back anyways. And apparently the only reason why Brock came back to the WWE again is because apparently he got banned from the UFC. I heard that somewhere. I'm not even sure if it's true. But whatever. Brock continues talking, and he basically says there's not anybody in the WWE who can challenge me. In fact, I dare anybody to come out and try. Heyman gets the mic back and he says, we might as well just say goodnight right now because nobody's going to come out. And then Henry's music hits. Mark Henry. Now, I already knew this was going to happen earlier because a report came out earlier that there was going to be something between Brock and Henry tonight. Anyways, Henry comes out onto the stage. He takes off his giant friggin' shirt. He takes that off. He's already ready to go. He's got his ring gear on. He walks down to the ring and he climbs up the ring steps and he gets on the apron and he starts going to get in the ring. Brock jumps him and knocks him off the apron. Jumps out of the ring after him. They start fighting. Henry reverses it quickly, throws Brock over the barricade in the corner of the ringside area, off into the crowd, well, the empty portion of the crowd area. But he throws Brock over the barricade, and then Henry climbs over the barricade. He goes to grab Brock, but Brock lifts him up and basically spear tackles him through the barricade. Over there, it's over by the other side of the commentary table. He puts Henry through the barricade. He gets up and he lets out this primal scream where his fucking voice goes to the moon. And then he picks Henry up, gets him up on his shoulders, and F5s Henry right on the floor. Not even on the commentary table or anything. He just plants him face first on the floor. He gets up and he lets out another primal scream where his voice goes to the moon again. And Heyman comes over and he's like, that's enough. That's enough. And he basically kind of talks Brock down, and the two of them leave, and the medics come out to check on Henry. He's laying there dead, basically. And they cut to a commercial. When they come back, they replay what just happened. Of course, the whole fight between the two of them. And then the Bellas music hits. So obviously, it's time for the fucking Trainwreck Divas match. The Total Divas, the Bellas, the Funkadactyls, and Eva Marie. The 5 of them. And they get in the ring, and their opponents are already in the ring. Summer Rae, Alicia Fox, Oksana, Caitlyn, and Rosa Mendez. As I said, AJ, Tamina, and Natalya were nowhere to be found. Apparently, they were at the house show in Canada. Of course, Natalya, that makes sense, but whatever. Eva Marie started the match for her team going against Caitlyn. And these are really some of my only notes from this match because it was terrible. Eva had kind of slapped Caitlyn around a little bit. She was doing this shtick where she was acting like a bitch, just kind of blowing kisses to the crowd. She came off as like Maurice, only not French, not a good wrestler, and with flaming red hair. That's basically the impression I got from Eva Marie. Is they're basically doing a Maurice knockoff, minus the French accent. And I'll give Maurice a little bit of credit. At least she was decent in the ring. But anyways, she had slapped Caitlyn around, and then she's kissing to the crowd, whatever the fuck. She turns around and gets drop-kicked in the tits by Caitlyn, and I had to laugh. But Eva managed to come back, and she grabbed a hold of Caitlyn, pulled her over into her the Total Divas corner, and went to tag, but none of the other chicks wanted to tag Eva. They're like, no, fuck you. And so Eva basically just kind of slapped one of the Funkadactyls on the shoulder. I think it was Cameron. I don't know or care. Cameron comes in, and she starts whatever. Caitlyn manages to tag in Alicia Fox, and then the two of them wrestled around for a while, and then Fox tagged in Oksana. And then Cameron was able to tag out to Nikki Bella, and she wrestled around with Oksana for a bit, or maybe she was still in there with Fox, and then Oksana got tagged in. I don't know. But Nikki and Oksana were in there. Nikki got Oksana up on her shoulders to go for the shock treatment, the goofy backbreaker thing she keeps doing. At that point, all the divas get in the ring, and we get a clusterfuck. The shock treatment thing gets broken up. Everybody spills out to the outside of the ring, except for, of course, the two legal girls, Nikki and Oksana. Oksana gets up, and she grabs Nikki, and she hits a new finishing move. This completely blew me away because I didn't think Oksana was really that good of a wrestler. She grabs Nikki by the head, like bends her down like she's going to give her a DDT, but instead she grabs her, swings her arm around, and basically elbow drops the back of Nikki's head, driving her face first into the canvas, which is basically an inverted version of the Eye of the Hurricane from, Hurricane Helms, whoever. It was basically an inverted version of that. But anyways, Oksana hits this move, rolls Nikki over, covers her, 1, 2, 3. So the true divas, quote unquote, actually win the fucking match. Which, I was kind of glad to see that because the Total Divas have won every confrontation, pretty much. By the way, the crowd was dead when the match ended. Not like I even needed to say that. But whatever. After that, we get another recap of Bryan versus the Wyatts. And this is from SmackDown 2 weeks ago. Another beating, who gives a fuck. Again, hyping for the gauntlet match. And they show another Batista video. This one was different. And then they cut to a commercial. And when they come back, Triple H and Stephanie are in the office, and up comes Brad Maddox, and they're talking. And Maddox, this is where he mentions something about the referee in the match with Sandow and Khali. I don't know why they're going to bring this up, like they're going to try and make it seem like Sandow's win was a fluke. This better not lead to some bullshit where Sandow gets screwed out of being in the company, because, fuck's sake, enough bad shit happens on this episode of Raw, whatever. But anyways, they're talking, yada yada yada, who gives a fuck? We get another recap of Bryan versus the Wyatts, this time from last week's taped Christmas episode. Another beating that they gave him. And finally, after building up to this shit all goddamn night, Bryan finally comes out for the gauntlet match. And then they cut to another commercial. And when they come back, they announce that for SmackDown this Friday, we're going to have a tag team title match between the Rhodes brothers, and they're going against Harper and Rowan of the Wyatt family. Now, I have heard a report that Triple H wants Harper and Rowan to be the tag team champions before the Royal Rumble. Don't ask me why, but that's the report that I heard. So, spoilers before the fucking spoilers even comes out, odds are Harper and Rowan are winning this match. I'm pretty sure it was last week on SmackDown, or maybe it was the week before, but Harper and Rowan beat the Rhodes in a non-title match. So yeah. But after that announcement, the Wyatts make their entrance. And we start the gauntlet match. Of course, it starts with Bryan versus Harper. The match was crap because Harper sucks, obviously. Some highlights. Bryan starts working on Harper's leg early. He gets him into the surfboard sort of thing, but he locks him into like a buffalo sleeper. Or maybe it was a dragon sleeper, I don't know. Harper starts doing his dumb gator roll thing, and then he does the Michinoku driver. There's a commercial break. Harper winds up getting thrown out of the ring, and Bryan hits him with a suicide dive once, and then gets back in the ring, and he does it again. And he hits it both times. It's all good. Later on, Harper ends up on the top rope, and Bryan goes up with him, and he goes for that big Super Frankensteiner he's been doing lately. But Harper blocks it, holds on, lifts Bryan back up into a super jumping avalanche powerbomb. He hits that. Only gets a 2 count, whatever. Bryan is able to lock in the yes lock on Harper, but Harper somehow gets out of it. He just basically powers out of it. And then, Bryan had done his repeating chest kicks, and he went for the big roundhouse. Harper ducked it, but Bryan recoiled and caught him with a kick anyways. But what ends up happening, this is the finish of the match, Harper goes for a German suplex. Bryan backflips, lands on his feet, stumbles backwards into the corner. Harper gets up, turns around, Bryan comes running, super fucking knee to the face, and Bryan gets the win. So Bryan wins the match. He's kind of celebrating in the ring. Rowan, of course, comes from behind and jumps him from behind. The referee has to break him up and separate him. And the match starts. They immediately go to the outside of the ring, where Bryan gets thrown over the announce table. He's wiped out. They cut to another commercial break. When they come back, I believe they were up on the top rope, and Rowan hits a super fall-away slam on Bryan. And I'm trying to remember what happened. Right, actually, I think it was right after that. After the super fall-away slam, Rowan gets up, goes over to Bryan. Bryan cinches him in a small package and gets a quick win. So Bryan wins again. Obviously. Rowan's pissed. He gets up. He starts trying to attack Bryan. Harper jumps into the ring and grabs Rowan and pulls him off. And they both get out of the ring and they go over to Bray, who's still sitting in his fucking rocking chair. And they're basically like, you go get him. So Bray finally takes his stupid Hawaiian shirt off and he takes his stupid straw hat off. And he gets in the ring. And it's time for, finally, Bryan to get his hands on Bray one-on-one. But does he get it? No! Of course not! Because the last hour and a half of Raw has been shit. We have to make sure that the whole end of Raw is shit. The match starts and Bray does his stupid back-bending thing out of the corner. He's waiting for Bryan to get up because after Rowan beat him up, he was down. Bryan was in the corner. Bryan starts getting up, and Wyatt gets out of his back bending. He comes running at Bryan, and then he stops. Bryan doesn't move or anything. I don't know what the fuck was supposed to happen here, but Bray backs off. And then, of course, all of a sudden, Harper and Rowan jump in the ring, and they start beating the shit out of Bryan. So the ref calls for the bell, DQ. Bryan wins by DQ, not like it matters. They beat the shit out of Bryan. They throw him out of the ring. They double Irish whip him into the barricade 2-3 times. They throw him back into the ring. They're still beating on him. They pick him up, Harper and Rowan, and they double choke slam him. And Bray's kind of sitting in the corner. He's got a mic. And he starts singing this goofy, dumbass song. And the camera looks over at the crowd, and I could see people leaving. Yeah. People were leaving because they did not like this shit. Thank you. Because just before they started leaving, I was yelling at the TV, people start leaving! And then they did it, I was like, yes! They're leaving! People are sick of this shit! The Wyatts suck! Stop pushing them! But it gets worse! It actually gets fucking worse! I can't believe I can say that! Bray starts yelling at Bryan, it didn't have to be like this, we could have been friends and all this shit. And he says, this is the end. And he puts the mic down. He's picking Bryan up. Bryan's on his face. He picks him up by his hair. And he kind of puts the mic to Bryan's mouth. And Bryan says, you're right. And Bray says, say it again. And he puts the mic back at Bryan's face. And Bryan says, you're right. And Bryan kind of gets up a little bit. He's on his knees, but he's kind of there. And he gets the mic away from Bray. And he says, you've always been right. No matter how much these people cheered for me, no matter how much they chanted yes, the Authority would never let him be WWE champion. Crowd's dead at this point, by the way. Because we know what we're seeing is terrible. But Bryan continues, they wouldn't let me win, they wouldn't let me win. And he finally says, and he's talking to Bray, he says, I'm yours. Let me join the family. And he looks up at Bray, and he holds his hand out. He's reaching towards Bray, and Bray kind of has his hand out. But as Bryan's hand gets closer to his, he pulls it back. And Bryan falls flat on his face. Bray grabs Bryan, picks him up, cinches him up for the Sister Abigail, kisses his forehead, plants him with the Sister Abigail. And then Bray tells Harper and Rowan, pick him up, grab him, we're gonna go. So Harper and Rowan drag Bryan over to the fucking apron. They all get out of the ring. They get Bryan out of the ring, and they pick him up. They've got him, like, Bryan's arms are over the shoulders of both Harper and Rowan, and they're kind of, like, walking him to the back. But they get partway up the ramp, and Bryan stops, and he's standing on his own 2 feet now. He stops. But he continues to follow Bray up the ramp. And Bray gets up to basically the curtain, and Bryan stops. The crowd finally starts to chant no. They're chanting no, no. Bryan turns around and he's looking at the crowd. They're chanting no, and he's like he's trying to psych himself up. But then he stops. And Bray's yelling at him, don't listen to these people, they don't know nothing, you need to be with us. Bryan turns back around, hanging his head in shame, essentially. Or no. Bray was yelling, and the crowd starts chanting, Daniel Bryan, they're chanting that over and over. And Bryan turns around, he hangs his head in shame, basically. And he starts walking after Bray. And they all leave out through the curtain. And then they do the stupid cutaway gag. And that's the end of Raw. So, the show starts off good, only to do a fucking nosedive. And now you've pretty much completely killed off Daniel Bryan's character. All his momentum, it's gone. He's going to be a heel, he's going to be a member of the Wyatt family. This is the worst possible thing they could do with Daniel Bryan right now. So, after weeks and weeks and weeks of Bryan getting his ass kicked every week on the show by Randy Orton and The Shield, and then, after that finally came to an end after the Hell in a Cell thing, Bryan starts getting his ass kicked week after week after week by the Wyatt family. Same shit. And now he's going to join the Wyatts, and like I said, ruin any part of his character that was any good. This show took it up the fucking ass. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to WrestleMania before I quit watching this shit. But let's recap the matches, I guess, like we normally do. Show started off on a good note with Punk and Rollins. Good match. Punk won. And then we got Curtis Axel versus Dolph Ziggler, which was decent. Ziggler won. And then we had the Intercontinental title match. Big E defending against Fandango, with Big E retaining, which was a good match. And then the nosedive. Sandow versus Khali, which was crap. R-Truth versus Brodus Clay, which was shit. And then we got the 10 Divas tag match, which was just a train wreck. The True Divas finally managed to get a win. And then the beginning of the gauntlet, Bryan versus Harper, which was crap. Bryan versus Rowan, which was crap. And then Bryan versus Bray, which was also crap because it wasn't even really much of a match. And Bryan joins the fucking Wyatts to end the show, even though Bray just basically beat the shit out of him by hitting him with the Sister Act. I don't know if that was supposed to be his initiation or some shit. I really don't give a fuck. I really do not want to see the rest of the storyline. I don't. I don't want to see the Wyatts ever again. I don't want to see them. I'm sick to death of the WWE shooting themselves in the foot, fucking everything up that they possibly can. Daniel Bryan became the most over person in the company, completely organically, not through anything you assholes did, because you tried your best to fucking bury him. But he got over anyways, because he's just that damn good. And so you decide to put him into a couple of feuds to ruin him and kill him off and screw over his popularity. Guess what? He's still going to be the most popular fucking person in the company. Nothing you do is going to screw this up. And on top of everything else, they still won't get the fucking hint that we don't need a bunch of old people coming back. We don't need Batista, and we don't fucking need Brock Lesnar. Build up new people. Seriously, what fucking crackhead is writing this shit? Basically, this was a throwaway show, and they could have ended the year with a bang, because, like I said, the first 3 matches were good. If they could have kept that going through the rest of the show, we would have ended the year with the best Raw probably all year. But no. Turns out to be another completely ass Raw. I don't know how much more of this shit I can take. So, in conclusion, that was once again your Raw from December 30th, 2013, Richmond, Virginia. Happy New Year. We just ended the year on a sour fucking note. They had better come back strong for 2014. And I think it was Triple H who said, it was during his promo, he said, 2013 was so great, how are we going to be able to top it? But we've got some great stuff planned that's going to make 2014 even better. Not if you keep going down this path, you lazy motherfuckers. Not if you keep burying good talent, bringing back old assholes from the past that were never that good to begin with, because you're too fucking lazy to build up new talent. Do your goddamn jobs right, or fucking quit. Raw sucked, ladies and gentlemen. That's the show. Thank you for watching. I gotta go cool down. I was gonna go get some food after Raw because I was so fucking pissed off, but then I decided, no. Let's just do the show. But whatever. That was the show. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned for the next episode. It'll probably be Wednesday or Thursday when I get the spoilers for SmackDown. We'll see you then.